Welcome to Toddler Tuesdays. It's
Hi. Oh, sorry.
just me and Nando today,
It
your
is. It is.
host at Lafon H, Nofal, Lafon, whatever you want to call me, really, and Nando,
Hi.
our resident Columbus fan, who's under 20. Well,
Well, yeah, we're all under 20. What are you talking about?
well, that's the point because there's a couple of I think there's one other Columbus fan. Anyway, on the show tonight, we're covering such exciting things as the off season.
Ooh,
Yay! Boo! I'm gonna start crying.
money.
Uh,
Okay.
well, yeah. We will also cover things like how to make the fawn cry in 3 easy steps by talking about the Senate. And more seriously, we'll probably be talking about off-season moves and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
Rhonda will try and keep you on topic and away from football, soccer to you North American types.
Yeah.
Um, so with that being said, you can ask us questions either via the questions at Q&A app here in the event, or you can ask us on Twitter by tweeting at us at OurHockeyCast or using the hashtag AskOH. No, wait, OHC. I'm a bit slow today. So yeah, hashtag OHC. No, hashtag AskOHC.
There you go. There you go.
I finally got it. Um, so a quick recap of the week that was since last Tuesday.
hmm
It's already been a week.
Yeah.
Time flies.
It is. It has been the initiation of what I'd like to call off-season madness. Of course, it was last week, wasn't it? That the that the Kings won the Stanley Cup. Jeez.
It was on Thursday.
Yeah, it was a Thursday. It
Yeah.
was the Thursday slash Friday. Well, slash Friday for me being in the West Coast or East Coast, but
Yep.
um, yeah. Geez, it feels like it's so far away now that the off season has started and the madness has begun, and it's not even July yet.
It is not. It is not even July.
We are leagues away, and yet all this talk and all this crap is starting to fill up. And then there's the draft.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll take a quick look. So yeah, in case you've been living under a rock or something, the Los Angeles Kings have won the Stanley Cup, and also according to EA Sports NHL, their home arena is the Consol Energy Center.
This, yeah. Oh, oh yeah, yeah. Now I know it. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
So if any of you guys are wondering what I'm talking about when I say that, it's EA Sports finally has gotten the rights to use the names for the proper names for the arenas in their upcoming video game NHL 15.
And that also includes goal horns and more authentic celebrations.
Absolutely.
So that way Columbus has a cannon and their actual goal horn instead of whatever generic crap they put in place of it. And I think they'll allow the cannon fire. I'm not really sure.
That would be honestly pretty cool.
Yeah, it totally would be.
But on topic of why I mentioned Consol Energy Center being the LA Kings home home arena, they tweeted out, EA NHL tweeted out that the Consol Energy Center was the LA Kings home arena, and so I was just poking a little bit of fun at them. But mistake aside, which we all make mistakes, it's a pretty cool announcement.
It's pretty funny too how they even showed a picture of the Staples Center, and yet they still called it Consol Energy Center.
I think it's just an honest mistake from an intern or something.
Yeah, no, that intern needs to be canned.
No, I don't think canned.
Yeah, I know.
We can just make everybody makes mistakes.
Not in this universe.
You think people go on the internet and just tell lies? You really think that?
Where'd you hear that? The internet? Oh yeah, that's right. You're Canadian. Wait, do you know that commercial or?
No.
Oh, okay.
But I understand why it's famous, although I've never seen it.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'll link it to you when we're done with this thing.
Yeah. So, looking at some interesting things. One thing that is coming up now, the cap is expected to go up next year, and to go up quite significantly, actually. So, moving into the business side of things, because that's pretty much all we talk about in the off season. We talk about business and drafting and trades and stuff. Any particular thoughts on which team will do?
Well, I'm probably thinking that next year it's gonna really benefit the Rangers this off season, because I know that this year they're having a lot of big name free agents come up, but next year they'll also have a really big list too. So I'm pretty sure that that's going to benefit them in any possible way if it does go up. Now, if it goes down, that's going to be a different story. But yeah, the Rangers come to mind in terms of that. And how about you?
Chicago's definitely going to be up there in terms of figuring out how they're going to fit their core in. I do agree New York is probably has one of the worst. But you're also looking at teams like, I don't know, Dallas, most of the Canadian teams, and Buffalo and New York. Actually, I should rephrase that. Most of the Canadian teams fitting their roster together, but then New York Islanders, Ottawa, the Ottawa Senators, and the Buffalo Sabres, they're going to have trouble doing the opposite. They're going to have trouble meeting the cap floor.
Yeah.
So,
I
know Buffalo, because they have so much cap space, they are taking on or have offered to take on bad contracts in exchange for draft picks. So it's a win-win situation, right? For Buffalo. One, they hit that cap floor, which they absolutely have to, otherwise they get penalized.
But that just seems like
they get draft picks, and it helps the other team because they get rid of a contract they never really wanted.
Yeah, but then that just seems like they're carrying like extra baggage in terms of
they're not going to perform next year, and everybody, including the management in Buffalo, knows it. So for them, it's less about winning now, but rather more about building that talent pool. In Rochester?
Rochester is their AHL affiliate.
Yes, Rochester is their AHL affiliate. So it's more about building that in rather than doing anything. So I have a bit of an error here.
How so?
For me, my program has stopped working, so I'm probably going to disappear for a little bit.
Oh, boy.
I will return, hopefully. So we're having a bit of a technical issues here, audience. And hopefully this will fix it up shortly.
Well, best of luck to you. I guess I'm going to be writing solo then. Anyway, let's see here. I guess we'll go to... Let's look at some of the questions that we have here. Let's see. Favorite playoff season this year, or playoff series this year, I should say. I guess in more of a homer stance, I'll take the Columbus and Pittsburgh series. Of course, that was in the first round, and I do have an explanation at least as to why. Mostly because, for me as a Columbus fan or a Columbus Blue Jackets fan, it was the first playoff series that I've watched where I was actively involved in watching the playoff series. Okay. Well, he's back. He is back, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, sorry.
So that was a bit odd. I have no idea what happened there.
Well, now we just have this ghost laying around. Yeah.
So apologies for that. I honestly I don't really know what happened there.
Well, you're back, and that's all that matters. While you were gone, I was going over favorite playoff series as of this year. And I had mentioned the Columbus Pittsburgh. Yeah, the Columbus Pittsburgh series in the first round, and how I said it was like my first time as being like a fan, or like where my team was actively involved in being in the playoffs. So
Absolutely. Getting your first playoff series under your belt is always
yeah,
a really fun experience.
it wasn't fun. It was just emotionally tearing, but it was still really fun, and I would never want to miss it again.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't realize, especially if your team has never made the playoffs,
Hmm.
or I should say hasn't made the playoffs in a forever long time, or has made the playoffs but hasn't done anything, a la your,
Oh,
what do you call it, Florida series a couple of years ago.
yeah. Uh, let's see here. We also posed a question earlier about top 5 players in the NHL as of right now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. We have Dave at LA Kings. Dave, I should say, saying Crosby, Tays, Stamkos, Getzlaf, and Kopitar. Um, we have at Mary Yemen. I can't pronounce her.
Maria Minks. Her name is
Maria
Maria Minks.
Minks. Maria
Yes.
Minks. Okay, thank you for that. We have Tays, Weber, Kopitar, Doughty, and she said Western Bias was her other favorite player, which I guess that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
And then we have Ari at Ari Raid saying Crosby, Tavares, Tays, Kopitar, and Getzlav. Yeah, that's
Okay.
5.
So you want to go through your top five? I'm assuming this is top five talent and not top five favorite.
Um. Oh, geez. Um. Oh gosh. Now you're making me have to think.
No, it's top five talent, not top five favorite.
Top 5 talent. For some reason, Subban. Well, this isn't really in no particular order, so you don't have to scrutinize me. But I always thought that Subban, Tays. Oh jeez. Um. Since no one mentioned goaltenders, I'm gonna go with Lundqvist, even though that whole fiasco with the New York's playoff series. That's 3 already. So, and then I'll go with Kopitar, and then oh man, I'm trying to think now. Uh, yeah, I'll go with Crosby. Yeah, those are my 5. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's let me recite it. So it's Subban, Lundqvist, Tays, Kopitar, and Crosby are my
Okay.
5.
Fair enough. For me, it depends what position we're talking about
Mm-hmm.
because you can't really compare forwards to defense, and on top of that, you can't really compare centers to wingers, and absolutely none of those can be compared to goalies. So,
I think it's just an all-around type thing.
no, absolutely. So for me, I would say my top five. Crosby.
Mm-hmm.
Crosby is up there. He's number one in my opinion. Taves is pretty good. Carlson.
Oh,
Um,
that
Eric
seems
Carlson.
more like a Homer bias.
No, I don't think you can call him a homer bias. I think he's shown that he has that game-changing ability for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, in my opinion, now this is where the homer bias comes in. In my opinion, he's better than Subban is. The only reason we like Subban a lot more, or it seems to be, is that he's a good Canadian boy, but even that doesn't defend him from his, you know,
Mm-hmm.
the criticism he receives. So I think that to say that's a homer bias is not entirely true.
Oh
Okay,
yeah.
so that's top three so far. I have Crosby, Taves, Carlson. I'm gonna go with Lundqvist. So that's four. And the fifth one, I think Stamkos. Steven Stamkos is I would consider one of the best in the NHL.
Hmm. Fair enough. Fair enough. Let's see here. Oh, I just closed the tab. I just lost track of everything. Give me a second.
So we have a couple more questions coming in on Twitter.
Oh
Shout
yeah,
out to our, shout
you
out to
have the
our
account too.
boy, shout out to our boy there, Mario Campisi, who is manning the account.
Always remember to keep those noses clean, boys and girls. That's one.
Yep.
That's one of the tweets. Oh boy. Anyway,
So Ariana, at Ari_raid, has a few for us. One song to describe your team's season. And I'm going to go with Hold Me Now. Because, for the Senators, in case any of you don't know, I'm a Sens fan. A diehard Sens fan. A hardcore Sens fan, you could even say.
Yeah.
Hold Me Now is the song I would choose.
Oh boy. I know too many songs, so this might. Oh man. I don't know what kind of song. I'm trying to think of a song. Maybe. Well, what's the song that we've been using? For some reason, I'm thinking of Foxy Shazam's "Unstoppable," which was famously featured in NHL 11, EA NHL 11's soundtrack. That's all I can think of for Columbus. I
Well,
feel like there's something.
it's a pretty decent choice, I would say.
Yeah, but I mean, we're not really unstoppable. We're just,
No, I hear you. I hear you. Okay, so let's go to the next question. Again from Ariana. You are honestly my favorite right now. What favorite
yeah.
playoff series this year? And then actually we'll put that one in with actually we'll answer that one and then I'll ask the next two questions together.
Okay. Wait, what were the questions again?
The question is, what was your favorite playoff series this year?
Oh yeah, wait, we didn't. Oh, you didn't answer that, did
I
you?
didn't answer that one. You did it. You'd answer that one.
Yeah.
For me, favorite playoff series. Oh gosh, all of them sucked.
Hey.
So bad.
Bias.
Well, no. Well, yeah, obviously biased. But I was upset because Pittsburgh won,
Well, yeah.
and then I was upset because Boston won.
Well,
I was upset because Montreal won.
Okay, no, Boston won. Well, Boston winning was kind of expected, at least for me, because Detroit
That
was
doesn't
one
mean
of
I
those.
can't be upset about it.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
So, and then, this entire playoff was just one series of disappointment after another. And then the Kings capped it all off by winning the entire thing and making me really upset.
You were just Mr. Like Scrooge the entire time.
I was salty. I was really salty.
You were. Sorry. That's like
Put me on
I
a
think that's
cracker,
the.
call me a condiment.
I,
Because I was salty. Okay, so we're just gonna move on to the next couple questions before I put my foot in my mouth.
Okay.
Not literally, guys. If I were to actually do that, I would log off first, so you don't have to hear the weird sounds that happened. Okay, so Ari asks us, where's Ryan Callahan going? And as a follow-up, do free agents not want to play in Canada because of pressure, and that's emphasized, or because most Canadian teams suck? And just to build on that, they
Canadian bias
include
incoming.
taxes and, TJ Leckman. He includes, I think, more because the American dollar is higher, and Ariana builds on that, and taxes also. Thoughts on that, and whether it has any, real basis in fact, or
Oh, I would say. Well, it's either more about pressure or the fact that you're kind of throwing yourself into the wind, because I feel like Canadian teams are very unpredictable, except as of lately it's Montreal that seems to be the most consistent ones. But I always feel like Canadian teams, like, you'll always have the pressure, especially media pressure, and then the other supplemental fact is that you'll have what was I saying earlier? Oh yeah, you're not really sure if your team's going to be really hot at some point in the year, or they're going to be, kind of like hitting rough waters and then end up going through a bad season. Because it seems like a very stark change when you have Stanley Cup runner-up Vancouver Canucks, and then a few years later they end up being like at the very bottom in terms of standings. Now I know there were some circumstances that led up to that, but it
I
does seem
think I
kind
think
of
the
like
biggest problem about players wanting to play in Canada is not the higher American dollar or the taxes problem, although I will build on that in a couple moments, but rather because of the mediocrity surrounding many of the teams. Nobody wants to play for a non-contender. And then on top of that, you look at the media pressure that is prevalent in Canadian markets, and I mean, for God's sake, we treat our OHL players to a media circus so extreme that many people only see it when they go to like an Olympic level contention. And these kids are like 15, 16, 17, and they're being exposed. So think of it, if 15, 16, and 17-year-olds are being exposed to that kind of media pressure, what do we do to our professional athletes who play here? So that's definitely part of it.
well,
Coupled with the fact that most teams are mediocre, it's just a huge, like, why would you do it? And then finally, if you're going to go to a place and play for a mediocre team and have to deal with all that ridiculous media coverage, and on top of that, you're not being paid at a same level as some of your, peers are because you're being taxed more, that definitely adds to it. I will say this. In Canada, many of the
sorry.
teams many of the teams do not have proper management, or if they do have proper management, they don't have a good owner. I'm looking at you, Eugene Melnick. So look at Vancouver. Like, their management jerked around Roberto Luongo, and they're jerking around Ryan Kessler, and who wants to play for that, right? And then in Alberta, you've just got two bad teams, right? Winnipeg seems adamant in refusing to address their problems, and so why would you want to play there? Ottawa, everyone knows the media circus that's involved in Ottawa with Eugene Melnick and the internal cap. Toronto is synonymous with failure, and Montreal's a special case. They're just starting to get back on the circuit in terms of the actual competitiveness of their team. So I'm thinking Montreal may be an attraction, but if you had a choice between a team like Montreal, which is on the cusp of becoming something decent, but in Montreal, or in a team like, say, Dallas, which is also on the cusp of being a decent team, but you're not in Canada, I'm pretty sure most players would choose Dallas.
Well, I also mentioned too that like in terms of Canadian teams, there's always like some kind of streakiness involved in their performance on a season-to-season level. Because you had a situation like, for example, with Vancouver, how they were like cup contenders a year or in 2011 at least, and then now they're like almost sinking to the bottom in terms of standings. And in
Keep in
respect
mind
to
that the West is a very tough conference. You've got Chicago, you've got Los Angeles, you've got Anaheim, San Jose. Who else am I missing?
LA,
I
Anaheim.
mentioned Los Angeles.
Did you mention Anaheim already? Cause
Yep, Anaheim, San Jose. I mentioned both of those. Like, these are all very, very strong teams. Like, we're talking. Okay, if Los Angeles and San Jose and Chicago were not in the Stanley Cup playoffs, the Anaheim Ducks would have won.
Yeah.
Or any of the other or any combination, right? If LA was not in the playoffs, who knows who would have won, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really judge based on that. I would say, though, the greatest indicator of how bad Vancouver is their management. It's been a gong show. and it's actually, frankly, quite embarrassing to watch.
Hmm.
So let's. So actually, we'll just move on. Well, we won't move on. We'll just re-ask the question that was asked earlier. Where do we think Ryan Callahan will go?
Oh yeah, that oh boy, he's probably gonna go to another larger market team. I really don't see him pulling like a Nathan Horton in the sense that he moves from like a large hockey market to a smaller hockey market or even a medium-sized hockey market
Yeah.
because it just doesn't it just doesn't seem to pan out that way. Maybe he'll I'm not really sure. He just
I'm
seems kind of
thinking.
like
I'm trying to think where he's needed. Right.
hmm
He's a winger. Um, he's slightly older. I
yeah.
mean, well, actually, no, he's 29, but the style of game he plays is not the most. It's not the easiest on the body, shall we say?
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe
but
if Toronto wants to help their image, build their image of being a tough team, maybe.
yeah.
I mean, but then again, no one really wants to go to Toronto, so um, I'm really not sure. Maybe he'll just re-sign with Tampa. But or wait, he did go to Tampa, right?
Yes,
Okay, okay. I usually get my Rangers players mixed up, but yeah, sure.
it's quite possible he'll re-sign with Tampa. Although I don't see what's in it for Tampa Bay. They don't really have
The room, I guess.
not the room. I don't think they need him,
Mm,
especially with what they have in their system coming up.
yeah.
Right. So I'm thinking really we're looking at a team. We're looking for a team that requires wingers, that requires, you know,
Um, I was
just that
thinking
just
that
that power forward type thing. But I don't really see where that would come from, or who
I
would
know
want it.
Nashville needs wingers, but they need more offensive wingers, not necessarily power forwards. But what were we going to mention earlier? Sorry.
I don't think I'm just trying to think. He's never won a Stanley Cup.
Yes.
Has sorry?
No, I'm agreeing with you. Yes, he's never won a
Oh,
Stanley
okay.
Cup.
And so you'd think he'd want to go to a team that's a competitor,
Hmm.
but there's a lot of speculation that he'll move to Buffalo. I'm not sure that makes sense for Callahan. Although if they can get a decent deal, Buffalo would probably be very happy to have him.
Yeah.
Um, I just really don't see a team other than Tampa that needs his kind of skill set and that would offer him the same level of competitiveness that Tampa
Maybe
does.
maybe Washington.
It could be.
That's
It
just
could be.
throwing something.
Yeah.
But then again, he's a right winger, isn't he?
Yes.
There's going to be a logjam with dealing with Ovechkin or something.
Well, Ovechkin and he would likely not play on the same line.
Yeah.
They're different style players, and on top of that, Ovechkin's your number one winger.
Mhm.
Like there's no conversation about that. He would be a number one winger on literally any team in the NHL.
Yeah.
Um, so I really don't see where he'd fit in. Um,
Mm.
Whether he'll re-sign with Tampa, or will he move to a place like Nashville or Buffalo? Well, I guess this is unfortunately one we're just going to have to wait and see. There's no real surefire answer.
Yeah.
So moving on, I guess a natural segue would be to ask about the other players who have had talks being rumored around them this
Well,
offseason,
first
and
person that
two amongst
obviously
them.
comes to mind, and I know this is going to break your heart, but Jason Spezza. Of course, Did he just mute himself out of sadness? Or okay, never mind. Um, so Jason Spezza, of course, is in talks about trades. I believe he released the list of people he doesn't want to get traded to, which
The
include.
list is pretty long. It includes places that no one would ever want to be traded to, like Edmonton and New York
Well, no,
Islanders.
he mentioned the Islanders, um, all of Canada,
Yes,
and
Nashville.
Nashville. Okay, that was
That's
the other
correct.
team. I
Yes.
keep forgetting that team. Anyway.
The thing is, Spezza wants to be traded to a contender. He
Hmm.
really does. But he also wants to be traded to a market that is not supremely extreme in its coverage of hockey, of which Canada is basically everywhere.
Oh God, that sounds like he wants to go to Columbus or something with
I
that
don't think
attitude
he wants to be a
because
Columbus player. The other problem is, here's the other problem. Brian Murray does not want to trade Jason Spezza uh, within the conference because
mm,
Jason Spezza is still a very, very effective centerman.
yeah.
On a contender team that has a number one centerman already, he would likely fit in as a number two center and be ridiculously good
Well, no, the
because he's
problem
not
is.
facing top line competition.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking if he manages to make it to a team like, oh, I don't know, any of the California teams or Chicago,
Whoa, wait. Would they have the space for that? First of all.
it depends. Is the cap going to go up enough?
Well, I mean, but that's just leaving it up for next year. But I mean, I'm talking about now. Would the cap be enough for Spezza to go to like a West team?
I don't know. Actually, I'll check the what their cap space is.
Okay.
Um,
Because I'm thinking with like a team like Chicago, they don't need another big name player because yeah, I don't think they were gonna
so
have that kind of room.
actually, Chicago has four just over 4.5 million in cap space, and San Jose has just over 11 now. Anaheim was the other one that they were in talks with apparently, supposedly. So they are Anaheim has a significant amount at 22 million, and Jason Spezza has a cap hit of I believe 6.5 million, if I remember correctly. Um, so yeah, sorry, he has a cap hit of 7 million dollars a year, although he's only being paid 4 million. So yeah, he would not fit on a team like Chicago, which doesn't have enough cap space. But aside from Philadelphia and Chicago, any other team has enough cap space to fit him for that 1 year.
Mhm.
Um, it's really a question of who's a contender, who's in a not so big market, and is willing to give up enough in return for him to buy Murray. At this point, though, Murray's hands are tied. It's a buyer's market, not a seller's. You look at players like Joe Thornton, who's being shopped. You know, there's players who are being waved around that are, uh, Paul Stastny also, uh, Vinny. There's a couple of other players that are in play. So you gotta wonder, is there really a market for Spezza that Brian Murray wants?
I would also like to mention that one of the San Jose front office men, or I should say the GM more specifically, it has been quoted as saying we now become a tomorrow team. I don't know what that means. I mean, to me, it really seems like they're gonna like flush out a lot of their players,
Here's the
but
thing:
it's
The
still.
Ottawa Senators literally have exactly one player
Hmm.
or two players, I should say, who were in the 2007 Cup run, and those players are Chris Neal and Chris Phillips. If we assume that Jason Spezza is gone, That old core does not exist anymore. Chris Phillips is a fifth or sixth defenseman. And Chris Neal is a fourth liner or third liner on the Sens, apparently. And I love Chris Neal, but he's not going to win you games.
Yep.
The Sens don't have any players anymore from that cup run. So the Sens have been, in the last couple of years, a rebuilding team, which is fine. They built a team that made them to the Stanley Cup playoffs in 2012, right? And then we're supposed to come this year or last year and actually perform, but they didn't. So it's starting to seem like, because of the way ownership has set this internal budget, they can't keep that rebuild. Like, we had to the end of the year off, we had a Stanley Cup caliber team. I mean, you look at the lineup. For your first line was Jason Spezza, Milan Michalek, and Ales Hemsky. That's a number one line. And then what do you have right behind them? You have Kyle Turris, Clark MacArthur, and Bobby Ryan. There's your 1B line. Then who do you have behind that? You have Mika Zibanejad, Mike Hoffman, and Mark Stone. That's a second line, not a third line. And then your fourth line is players like Zach Smith, Condra, and if you want your grinding out, Chris Neal. That right there is a Stanley Cup caliber team. And then on defense, if they could play to the levels they're capable of, you've got Erik Karlsson, who is a Norris Trophy winner. You've got Mark Mathot, who can be a shutdown defenseman. You've got Cody Ceci. You've got Patrick Wierkosh. I'm not going to mention Jared Cowan because he can be a bit of a turnover machine. And then in net, you've got Craig Anderson and Robin Lehner, two bona fide, reliable goaltenders in this league. That is a team that can win. But unfortunately, that entire first line is gone. Ales Hemsky walked. Jason Spezza is going to be traded. Milan Michalek is quite likely to be walked. And then what are you left with? Right? So I think that moving on, the Ottawa Senators are definitely a rebuild team. It seemed like the rebuild was over at the beginning of this last season, but with the end and with revelations coming to light about how Eugene Melnyk has been running the team, that the Sens are doomed to be a cost per point team, and that is not a way to win.
Well, I mean, the other problem that you have to see too is like how consistent that line is, because you can have like star caliber players, but in terms of consistency,
the thing, though. Jason Spezza, Ales Hemsky, and Milan Michalek ended the season when they played together at a ridiculous pace. I think there was something like over a point per game. That line was over a point per game.
Well, that's just one line though, but you gotta think.
But
their defense is also
but
really
keep in mind this thing. The defense regressed this year. The defense was seriously bad.
Yeah.
But you can't believe that's going to happen forever. They were one or two pieces away from being a real contender. Now they're like half a team away from being a contender. In one step, like in the span of about a month. They went from being one or two pieces away from a contender to being half a team away from a contender. And that's just no way to manage a team.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's more of like a team issue than just. I mean, I guess there's also like I feel like there's more of an appeal factor as to how the team is performing more than how management is trying to keep the team together. But then again, that's just me. So
keep in mind that the Sens have an image problem right now. Their longtime captain walked. Their new captain, who is a point per game player, requested a trade. Ales Alish Hemsky asked for what is not necessarily an unreasonable deal,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh yeah, that got shut down.
that got shut down. And not just that, it was the way in which it was shut down, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now, the offer Ottawa gave to Hemsky was not really that bad if you think about it objectively, considering what they'd seen from him and what they'd seen from him in the past. I mean, it was a lowball offer,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same token, teams do that all the time.
Yeah.
What made it so bad was that the Sens have this air around them that they don't want to spend money, and it's true. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I think Ottawa right now has an image problem.
Oh.
So, okay, TS, from just a quick thing on Spex's no trade list, it includes the, I think, 6 Canadian teams. So, obviously, Montreal, Toronto, Ottawa, Calgary,
Mm-hmm.
Vancouver. Or, sorry, we have 7 Canadian teams now because of Winnipeg.
Yep.
But it also includes the Predators, the Blue Jackets, and the Panthers.
Hey, that's I'm kind of relieved about that, to be honest. But
Yeah.
um, let's see here. In random hockey news, the Syracuse Crunch, which is the AHL affiliate to, oh god, I should remember.
Tampa Bay.
Oh, who? What now?
Isn't Syracuse the AHL affiliate for Tampa Bay?
I am not sure. I always forget this kind of stuff. But they're going to be hosting a game at the Carrier Dome,
They are
which
indeed
is,
the
of
AHL
course,
affiliate for the
the
Tampa Bay. Just to clarify.
okay. And they will be hosting a what is called a stadium, or it's not stadium series. It's Frozen Dome Classic
Okay.
versus the Utica Comets, who the Utica Comets are one of the more recent AHL teams who are the affiliates for Vancouver.
Okay.
But the Carrier Dome is a multi-purpose dome for. It's mainly owned by Syracuse University. They use it for soccer, lacrosse, and football and basketball. It's more famous for basketball, but what they're going to do is use the basketball setup that they have, where they close off half of the arena, um, and then they're going to use that setup where half of the arena is used as a basketball court, and instead have a hockey rink there. Now, this
Okay.
is just for an AHL game, and what they're thinking of is having like upwards of like 20, I think it's like 20 to 18,000 people usually that fills up the Carrier Dome. Now that's just for like a basketball game.
That is pretty awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure they can do it, especially since they're facing an in-state rival, which means that, travel is going to be pretty easy for the opposing team. But I think it'll be interesting, just even for like a bystander, or like a hockey fan who's not really affiliated to any of those two teams, to go watch, because you always see basketball games being held in that type of manner, but you never see a hockey game like that. And that's even pretty revolutionary for a what's it called, a AHL team, because I would expect, like, well, I mean, the NHL has already done that with the Stadium Series, but I mean, I don't think they've gone so far as hosting it in a dome stadium, so that could be something interesting.
It would definitely be interesting. I would agree that it's an interesting idea.
Hmm.
I just feel that that I like it. I can't say that I don't.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I can't think of any reason why it's a bad idea. I think it grows, especially because it's two AHL teams.
Yeah.
It gives it out there a little bit. Speaking of AHL and different ways of maximizing the attention,
Mm-hmm.
the Binghamton Senators will be
Yes.
holding their
Oh.
tryouts in Lyon, France.
Mm-hmm. That is true.
So that will be pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's definitely a very interesting thing, and I actually like it. I like moving the games around.
Yeah. I should also mention a random kind of fun NHL tidbit to throw around to people is that in 1983, for the NHL draft, the St. Louis Blues forfeited all their picks by not showing up. And it's the
Oh,
first and the only time that's ever happened. Thank you to @NHL History Girl for that awesome tidbit. I read it this morning and I really wanted to share it out.
so we'll be wrapping up in a couple minutes. But I think we should start. If there's any interesting facts that you come across at any point, whether hockey related or not, but preferably hockey related, tweet at us, at our HockeyCast. And this is also a good opportunity to mention that you can always use, even if we're not on, even if our podcast is not online at the time, tweet at us at our HockeyCast or using the hashtag #AskOHC. Or
Mm-hmm.
tweet at any of us podcasters, such as myself at LaFonH or at Nandini77 _.
Mm-hmm.
We will keep it and use it for future podcasts. So we have more information. That brings me, I guess, to the next thing, especially seeing as we mentioned at NHL History Girl, who is a fascinating resource. She's seriously amazing. If you don't follow her, you should. What is the single most interesting fact about your team's history that you know?
This is kind of morbid, which in that you probably know what I'm talking about is that the reason why there are nets behind every goal crease in relatively any hockey stadium you go to is because in, I believe, 2000 or 2001, during warm-ups, a fan was struck in the head after a slap shot from a Columbus Blue Jackets player. I think it got deflected off a stick, and then it went up and hit the poor girl that was in the stands. And
Yeah.
also why they mention to keep your head up. And there's even a policy now in Nationwide Arena where you have to, where you can only enter the rink. Like if you leave mid game, you have to enter the rink when there's like a pause in the game where like the puck's out of play or the referee blows.
I actually thought that was normal everywhere because you're not allowed to do that in the Senators thing either.
Well, I mean, it's normal it's normal for tennis, but not necessarily for hockey. At least from what I've experienced, it's not normal in hockey. I know a Senators tidbit if you want me to say that.
Yeah, go ahead.
The original Senators team, the 1903 team that won the Stanley Cup, they pretty much abused the cup a little bit. They kicked it across.
They did. They really did. Those guys knew how to, as we say in the common parlance, they knew how to party.
They kicked it across a frozen lake, and I believe they left it on. Were they the team that left it on the side of a road?
I wouldn't be surprised.
But yeah, I just knew they famously kicked it across a frozen lake for whatever reason they thought was reasonable at the time. But then again, this was yeah.
They had just won the Stanley Cup. They were probably drunk.
Yeah, that makes sense. And plus, the Stanley Cup didn't have that many formalities, even back then.
No, it didn't. So two interesting facts, or I don't know if the second one is interesting or even a fact. In fact, I don't think it's interesting so much as it's embarrassing. But the first interesting fact is that Frank McGee, who was part of the Ottawa Hockey Club, and also part of the Silver Seven, was blind in one eye. And he was one of the most dominant players of his time.
Okay, now that's just plain amazing. Okay, sorry.
Uh, the second embarrassing fact is that the Ottawa Senators, in the playoffs in '07, had this terrible. I'm not even sure what to call it, but I think it was supposed to be a Spartan who introduced them to the Scotiabank, or not Scotiabank, it would have been called Corel Center at the time. And that was just painful to watch. So if you're a Sens fan and you haven't, or if you're a hockey fan and you haven't seen that, if you're a fan of embarrassing things and you haven't seen that, you really should.
Mm-hmm.
And then laugh at my team because it deserves it.
Yeah.
The last thing that I find interesting is that the hockey world has so much history. We just don't share a lot of it. So if you've got any interesting facts about your teams, tweet at us. You got anything else there, Nando?
Let's see here. I can't think of anything else. In terms of interesting Columbus history. I'm trying to think. Oh boy. Oh yeah. Oh jeez. Nope, I can't think of anything. Really, it sucks. It sucks that the only fact I know is, the one that's probably the darkest part of any team's history.
It's still an interesting fact, and I think it's useful to remember things like that.
I mean, it's useful, but it just, I don't know, it usually just doesn't liven up my mood about my team, because I can tell you right now that, like, stuff about, like, other teams I follow, and they're, like, either goofy or funny or something interesting to talk about, but, I mean, with that, I mean, yes, it's interesting, but it's also kind of dark. Well, at least for me, it's kind of dark.
I would agree that it's definitely dark, but I still think it'd be kind of interesting. So,
yep.
With that, I'd like to thank our resident intern. I'm kidding. I'm joking. He's not our intern. He's a good dude. Yeah. Mario, for manning our Twitter account. He did a fantastic job.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true.
And if you don't follow him, you're also doing stuff wrong.
Which is at Mario Campisi 2?
I'm pretty sure that is what it is. Yes, it is.
It is. Okay.
And of course, so you've been listening to our hockey guys. Give us ideas. We really need them, especially going to the off season. What do you want to see? We're going to be trying to get people to interview on our podcast moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have any ideas how we can get in contact with anyone, or anybody you'd like to hear on our podcast, give us a shout. We'd love to hear it. So, thanks for listening. With me has been Nando at Nandini77_, and myself, who goes by many names, Hamza, Nofal, Lafon, any combination thereof, at LafonH. And we'll see y'all later.
Bye.